Hello, y'all. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're ringing in from. This is it, right? This is it. Now, if you checked in on the last Berserk check-in video, I started the Golden Age, and I thought that I'd conquered it. I said, that's not that bad. And everybody said, no, baby, you are completely mistaken. You have not even touched upon the fear and the hurt that you are going to encounter. This is the continuation of the Golden Age. These deluxe volumes, I'm slowly starting to learn how they work, and this is going to be the one that's really just going to massacre my heart, massacre who I was before. I cannot wait. Apparently there is that part that is going to be in this upcoming revelation. And it's a big one. Again, as usual, the last one, we talked about it, has the parental advisory, which we love. Let's conquer this. Let's get berserkin', baby. It's berserkin' time. Oh, man. Okay, I'm ready. I hope that you're ready as well. As always, we have to start with the first page because I feel that this is a tradition now. Let's open it up. It's nice and crisp and gorgeous. Here is the first shot. And I'm lifting up on the thick part. So, look at that. Beautiful artwork. Stunning, gorgeous. And, oh. So where we left off was Casca's story being revealed. And let me tell you, I'm thinking that they're going to have a relationship. Is that right? Is that what's going to happen? I think that they're going to have a relationship. Though I'm not sure. I'm sure you'll tell me very soon if I'm wrong. So let's just continue on this. And let's go, baby, into the Berserk universe. Hello. Who else is despondent, sad, and a little bit worried about the future? Right here, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I'll be the first one to claim that prize, okay? That's me, because I am journeying on further into this book, and I feel like the scene is being set for something very catastrophic to happen. And I'm standing by my claim that there's a romantic relationship budding between Casca and Guts. I think I'm right. I think I am. Predicting here right now. Anyway, per usual, let's start. What? Oh, okay. Woo! I thought it was in a different spot. We're right here. We're right there. Right there. Oh my God. I'm not a lefty. Okay. And what has happened? So, in the last deluxe volume, we left off with unveiling Casca's story. At least just kind of little leaflets of what happened to her, why she joined the Band of the Hawk, her relationship to Griffith, kind of the way that she feels indebted to Griffith. There's been this alone time between her and Guts. Guts went to save her after she fell off a cliff, after she was feeling sick during this battle. She fell off this cliff, and Guts was there to rescue her, essentially protect her. In that very soft moment, she starts to tell her story, and that is essentially where this kicks off. Basically, Casca goes a little bit more into her relationship with Griffith, what is kind of bubbling under the surface. This is all something that I could kind of infer was happening. I think that she has this love for Griffith, this confused sort of love, whether or not it's an admiration or whether or not it's an actual love. In the midst of all of that, there is a surprise attack. They have found Guts, they have found Casca, and there's this massive army that just kind of starts to unleash on them. And of course, Guts, the man that he is, he saves the day. He tells Casca, go, run. And he fights off 100 soldiers, at least 100 soldiers. That seems like it's the lore of him. The way that the Band of the Hawk receives him and kind of the admiration that they have for him is that he is able to fight off 100 soldiers. This all is happening. Great fight sequences. I also want to talk about how Miura was able to progressively age the characters. I think that as an appreciation of his artwork, I think that that's something to really be inspired by. In these small little capsules of life that are on the page, these characters are progressively getting a little bit older. I know that a lot of people talked about the maturing of Miura's drawing as the series progressed, and this is very apparent. It's like a slow progression. Obviously, fine lines, details, everything are becoming a little bit more tweaked, but you are able to see a slow aging, which I think is like a huge part of the story, honestly, because you are following these characters for years through different storylines, through aging, through sadness, through injuries, and Miura is able to capture that in a pretty flawless way, which is something that I wanted to make note of because I'm starting to really, really notice it as these chapters progress. Right now, what has happened is Casa and Guts are eventually found by the Band of the Hawk. They are returned to Griffith, and like I said before, Guts is being applauded, patted on the back for the amazing feat of defeating 100 soldiers and making sure that Casa is safe. And you start to see him have this delicate moment with Casa. Again, there is the theme of dreams being played in this. There's a whole section talking about campfire of dreams, and it seems like it's this bonding moment between the two. Whether or not that's a romantic bonding or whether or not it's just a platonic bonding, I'm leaning, the meter is going ding, 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 romantic. I've left at the Battle for Doldrey, Chapter 1, and this seems like it's going to be a little bit of a revenge story. The castle taking revenge for the men that were killed by Guts. So I think I'm going to get probably about halfway through and then check back in again. We're going to have a big old juicy chunk, but this feels like there's going to be some pain coming my way. Look at it. Look at it. Look at that progress. Okay. We're about a little over halfway through, and I can tell you exactly where I stopped for your viewing pleasure. We are currently, well, I am currently, but we are experiencing this together, so it is a dual, a plural experience, let's just say that much. We are at Tombstone of Flame. We're right at the end of Tombstone of Flame. So if you have read this edition, you know kind of just about where I am. And where we left off last time was right at the beginning of the battle for Doldrey. I don't know why, but I immediately want to go into an accent like that because it feels right. And it might be very wrong, but it also feels very right. So a lot has obviously happened in those couple of chapters. Now, when I first introduced the Battle of Doldrey, I definitely thought that it was a different thing. And I was soon corrected by my own experience. So basically, Doldrey was this fortress that was absolutely unconquered forever. Nobody thought it could be conquered, so the Band of the Hawk takes it upon themselves to see if they can conquer the Doldrey. Now, this is, as we're learning a little bit more about Griffith, it is unveiled maybe his motivations for attacking the Doldrey. This is governed by Lord Genin, who is first introduced in the book through Casca's remembrances of odd occurrences that happened with Griffith. Griffith had actually spent a night with Lord Genin. His ambitions were to secure funding for the Band of the Hawk. Lord Genin never forgot their experience together, reveled in the idea of potentially spending more time together again. So there is a bit of like a double ambition for Griffith. He wants to simultaneously take down Lord Genin, and he also wants to defeat, get this, I wrote the name down, Holy Purple Rhino Knights. That is the name of the knights who defend Doldrey. So this is where you start to see a lot of Griffith's battlefield mentality. He puts himself and Guts against the main purple knights. They're fighting. They get so close to the main fortress and they retreat. What is happening? The purple knights and everybody inside thinks, oh, we've won, we've conquered, everything is wonderful. And of course, there is a sneak attack. That is where Casa comes in, and she goes around the back and she enters in. And she thinks that she has plotted this perfect little devious attack. Unfortunately, that is something that they've planned for. She is kind of under siege as well, and she is attacked by a poison arrow. Of course, being Casca, being the badass biatch that she is, she uses her last bit of strength and she defends herself and she slices her attacker's mouth wide open. Now, they win the battle, and of course, Griffith is able to kill Lord Grennan. After that, Griffith's whole plan, his dream, let's just say, his whole dream is starting to manifest itself, and he is well received within the kingdom. Of course, the queen of Julius, Lord Julius, who he killed in the last volume, wants her revenge. And so she tries to poison Griffith at this grand serenade that they have plotted for him. He's given this poisoned water, and he drinks it, and he falls. And they think that they've won. But of course, Griffith being Griffith, he knew that something was a little bit fishy. Of course, he knew the plan of the queen. He had a little informant who he dragged information out of, and he was able to thwart the attack, and he enacted his own revenge. Unfortunately, Guts is part of his dream. Whether he knows it or not, he is becoming a part of somebody else's dream. Does Guts even have his own dream? No, that's the thing. And that's the theme that you're starting to see throughout this, is that Guts really is not living a dream for himself. It's much more of a dream for Griffith. Griffith has this all-encompassing power of just navigating people into a direction that makes it most perfect for him. He is realizing his dream, and at what cost? I'm starting to really see how combative and conniving that Griffith is under this guise of being a swell leader. He's very conniving and very independent in those conniving thoughts. And so that is what I'm starting to see most. And I think that that trend will continue into the last part of the book, which I will be wrapping up tomorrow. Oh, my sweet children, we have reached the end. I'm going to show you a little bit of a progress pic, but it's not really where we are. I specifically put my little ribbon of fate, let's call it that, in the middle, because there is a particular section that I want to talk about that I think is all-encompassing for the general themes of this particular edition. I finished it, though. I did a marathon read-through of halfway to the end. In my particular opinion, I think that that was the best part of the book. The latter half, the latter chapters really, really were great for me. What I have noticed as I have read these is that I think that the drawings of the war scenes are amazing. It's insane to me that Miura is able to duplicate people and make it look like there's thousands on the battlefield, and every individual character has a certain face and a certain shape, size, everything. And I think that that's wonderful. But for me, the battle scenes don't really do it. I happen to really just love the storylines, and I think the latter half of this really, really provided that. So, where did we end off? We ended off at the Tombstone of Flame. At this particular time in the story, as I said before, Griffith was supposed to be poisoned, but he thwarted that. And he was able to get a little informant within the castle to tell him what was going to happen. Of course, in order to get that informant, he had to employ Guts. He had to employ a very, very harsh hand, something that he doesn't really want the rest of the Band of Hawk to know. He wants to disguise that part of himself because he wants them to believe that he was able to achieve this success through hard work, through passion, and through a dream. So Guts is basically his right-hand man for all of this. Guts really, he's a war machine. Essentially, he's a war machine. That is what Griffith uses. There's this celebration. Casca has this unveiling of a very womanly presence. Everybody loves it, sees it. After this particular episode, especially because Guts had to do some murdering for Griffith, he decides after 3 years with the Band of Hawk that he wants to leave. He decides it's a perfect time to go on his own. He wants to leave. But Papa Griff says, I own you. And they have an epic duel, very much mirroring the initial duel that they had that brought Guts into the Band of the Hawk. Guts defeats Griffith, and he walks away. He walks away without even saying goodbye. Casca's devastated. Everybody in the Band of Hawk is paralyzed, and Griffith is shunned. He's been embarrassed, essentially. And Griffith goes on to make a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake. In his mind, the trajectory of him reaching all of his dreams is to marry Princess Charlotte. Princess Charlotte is a pawn in his ascension guide, let's just say that, he spends the night with her and he's found. And the king of the castle forces Griffith into a year of torture. A year of torture. But in this torture, you still can see the veins of conniving nature in Griffith. He's really able to diagnose what type of individual the king is. He sees that the king has this combative nature when it comes to his daughter because he himself is obsessed with her. And in one of the darkest, in my opinion, scenes in the story so far, the father tries to get with his daughter, which we'll leave it at that because I don't really want to talk about that too much more, but it is, I think, really a pivotal scene for me in this book because it really shows how far Miura is willing to go. I read a lot of really uncomfortable fiction. I read a lot of really uncomfortable stories, but to see it drawn out is a whole different sort of battle that you have to encounter. You know, there's definitely moments that you feel. So in that year that Berserk leaves, he is basically touring around and entering into competitions, battle competitions. He is able to beat everybody because he's guts and he's a badass. During one of these competitions that he learns that Casca is now the leader of the Band of Hawk. Something happens. There's a competitor that he makes enemies with, and that competitor serendipitously finds himself attacking the Band of the Hawk. Guts steps in because he's a king. The theme of always stepping in to save the day seems to also be something. I don't know if that's just the way that this is constantly written, but if you are a constant reader, do you feel that that theme happens all the time? Like now when I'm reading one of these stories, one of these chapters, I know if something really bad happens, somebody's going to step in somehow and save the day, which I like. It just gives me hope. Even in the depths of this sadness, there is extreme hope throughout. This is where my predictions came true. Did I call it? Yes. Was it written on the wall? Absolutely. Was it pretty obvious? But I leaned into my psychic powers. And Casca and Guts, they get together. Probably my favorite scene of this entire book, because it's Guts not only having this, not even a beautiful moment with Casca, but it's Casca stripping down her facade, and it's very much Guts finally allowing someone in. While he's in the throes of this passion with Casca, he's having horrific flashbacks to the abuse that he suffered as a child, to Gambino's deceit, to all of these things that have manifested inside of him. And in this moment of truly letting himself go, he really isn't able to let go of the past, which is understandable. This book is a pillar of childhood trauma manifested. I just recently read for my Patreon book club, The Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. And for me, that book was a direct correlation of showing what childhood trauma can manifest in an individual, the extreme choices that you make. And I see a lot of that theme in this as well. Like I said before, I think the latter half of this story is really what got me. They know when to stop it. They know when to keep you intrigued to go on to the next volume, because to be honest, the first half of this, I love when people hype it up in the comments. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's really giving away too much, which I appreciate because I am learning this on my own. I'm a struggler. What can I say? Now I understand what struggler means. Kind of have an idea. So I get it. I'm hip with it, okay? I'm hip with it. But the first half of the book, I was under the impression that something really graphic was going to happen in this particular volume, but now I think something's going to happen in the 5th volume? Maybe, because like some graphic things really happened, as I addressed earlier, but nothing so graphic that I was so shocked. But I'm interested to see where it continues going, of course. Oh, and now to flip to the section that I very specifically pinpointed. Guts talking about Griffith's impact on him. And he says, even so, incidentally, I found someone I really wanted to have look at me. He didn't have anything. He was trying to take hold of everything. No, something about him made you think it could happen. But in order for him to aim so high, he has to always hone himself to the very limit. That's why there's no room at his side for the weak. But strangely, the more clear that becomes, the more dazzling he is in my eyes. And I've had enough of looking up at him from inside his dream. That's so good. You start to see the foundation of Guts as an individual arise in this chapter, and you start to see the decisions that he's making for himself, and really the fissure between Griffith and Guts, which I imagine is only going to get much wider. So, there you have it, guys. What do you think? The next video will hopefully be coming out soon. I have to get it from the library. We have a lot of December wrap-ups happening, but this might make it onto my best of the year. I think it might. Anyway, you guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one.